Hello ladies and gents, this is another video brought to you by Ants Hood. And today's video is about cleaning my ants, and is this the answers to my prayers? Now I got this set up off of Antymatters. I made a comment on one of his videos about how this could be a lifesaver, I need it in my life. And then he sent me all of this setup you see in his picture. So a big thank you to Antymatter, I really do appreciate it. So why do I need this in my life? Well, when you clean ants like in this setup, yeah, bearing in mind I've been away for 2 weeks on exercise, so it's a bit difficult. They are a bit dirty, but they're fairly easy to clean up in these setups, fairly easy to get on with, but when you've got ants like these, it takes forever. I think a recent guesstimate for this colony was around 300,000+. Now, that's not normally a drama with most ants because they're fairly big, but the miners here are so small. This pile just here will equally take me 3 to 4 hours to clean out, because I have to hoover it out, then I have to sift all the workers out of it. It takes me forever. So having something like this is going to be a real lifesaver for me, because if it works as advertised, as it were, it's going to be brilliant. So let's take a look what I actually got in the complete package. So first off, he sent me this groovy little hoover. Now, I have not got a cordless hoover. I use one that plugs in, which is a pain in the arse in itself, but this one's considerably better than what the one I've already got. Now, you've got a decent filter on there, it should be fairly easy to clean out, and it's also got a large surface area, so it should keep the suction quite high. You see that little orange thing there? Let's poke my finger through. That's a flap, so whenever you're sucking stuff up, it won't fall out once you stop sucking, which is kind of cool. Now, there was something that took me a while to figure out what it was. I'm just wondering if it pops up in the video. No, that's the hoover itself. That's cool. Is it? Well, there it is. So that thing on the end, you've just briefly seen a little tubular thing at the top. That actually connects to the end, so you can turn it from a sucker to a blower. So if you need to blow anything about, not that we're really doing this hobby, the option's there for it. So I thought that was pretty cool. But let's have a look what's in the bag, shall we? So, got the bag out. This is what I've got in it. How else do I elaborate on that? I don't really know. So you've got these little tubs. What's good about these tubs is, and I'll explain why later, the engraving on it is actually on the inside of the tub rather than the outside. And I'll explain why that's important a bit later if I remember, just in case I don't, it's something to do with barrier. So this is the little bin, all the little bits to it. I've already played with it, I won't lie. I put it back in the bag for the benefit of filming it, as I was having a look at it earlier. So bear with me on that one. But they do come apart and they easily slot together. Antymatters actually did do a video on the bin, and I'll put a link to that video in the description below, along with his channel and his not Facebook group, what am I talking about, his website page as well, so you can check it out. Now, some of the stuff on here, I didn't have a Scooby-Doo what it was. These are the liquid feeders. I've actually got one from Antcom, which is this one here, but I never actually used it yet. I don't know why, because I was really keen to try them out, but I think it's just getting time round to it, and I've already got other liquid feeders anyway. Now, this orange little thing was a bit of a pain in the bum. That goes in the end of the hoover. It doesn't go there. I was trying to figure out what it was. I had to look at a picture to find out, and I had to go onto that picture, the video we did below. And this is a little bit dustbin, and I'll talk about that in a second anyway. So what I had to do with that on what I'm just holding now was I had to get my knife out and cut it down a little bit around the outside, so I can actually slot it into the hoover how it's supposed to go. You will see it a bit later, so just bear in mind you might have to do a slight bit of sanding or cutting just to get it in, but it's not dramatic, it's not end of the world stuff. Now, if we move that all to the side, and let's get down to the bin itself, which is the thing I am really interested in. Now, this does come apart, but when I was playing with it earlier, I think I rammed it in a bit too tight because I can't get it back out again. But like I said, that's not end of the world stuff, so it's just me being heavy-handed like I generally am. Now, there is some 3D printed filaments on the inside of it, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah, the printing qualities, as you can see there, it's not brilliant, but it's not going to stop the effectiveness of it, so yet again, I'm not overly bothered. Now, you do get a little lollipop stick, as you can see here. It is stiff as, but when you put it in, the idea behind that is that the ants, if they can't climb smooth surfaces or anything like that, they can climb up the lollipop stick, because every ant can climb wood basically. What definitely is worth noting is the height of this. As you can see from the comparative to my hands, it is quite a high thing. So if you've got smaller outworlds, this will not work for you. But saying that though, if you've got a large enough colony where you need to use something like this, you probably have big outworlds for it anyway. So this is the whole thing connected, so you can see where different elements and different parts go. So if you see the green thing and not orange that I was talking about before, as you can see, it's connected to the hoover just there. Now, I would probably recommend getting this hoover because it's considerably better than the one that I've got anyway, and it will come to the attachment for it, which is good. But if you've got the old one like I've got, where a tube connects into it, you can just connect it straight into the little bin thing that you see here. If you look at the bin itself, it's actually got a mesh over the suction part of it where the hoover connects to. That will stop any detritus, but more importantly, any ants getting into your hoover. which will keep all the ants in that bin. Now, in Antymatters' video, what he did is he then disconnected this bin and then tipped it into the bin with the white thing on top of it, the one that's in the middle of the page. Now, I thought, yeah, that seemed logical when I seen it in his video, but for me, it would be more like, well, why don't I just take the lid off this bin and then put the white stuff on top of this bin, because they do fit, then I don't need to worry about emptying it out. Like I said, that's just my opinion, but hey, it just seems more logical to me. But anyway, so then the open tube that you see coming out the top of the bin, the second tube that's not connected to the hoover basically, that then gets put into the outworld so you can suck everything up into it. Now, I'm going to try that on some big ants first, my leaf cutters, because they desperately need cleaning out. And then I'm going to see how I get on with it. And then, so then what I'm going to do is connect the white bin up to it. Now, I probably didn't cover this, but the white bin, the whole point of it is that they can climb out, but they can't get back in. So when you've got a load of workers in the bin itself, they should be able to make the way out without getting back into it, so you don't have to sift through all of the rubbish. So, like I said, that's the plan. And talking about the plan, it was the plan that you'd see me hoover this stuff up, but I didn't hit record when I hoovered it. But what I did see was, excuse the branches because I took them out, but the bigger stuff, because the pipe's quite narrow, I couldn't suck that stuff up and it was blocking it up. So that tells me when I go to use this on my Kerabera diverser, any large carcasses or large shell parts of cockroaches is going to block this up. So definitely worth noting that. So let's crack on, shall we? So I was about to get ready to clean up this stuff, making sure the pipe would reach, taking off the lids and stuff like that. Then I made a really big boo-boo, which I haven't even mentioned on this video yet. I had forgot to put a barrier on the base of this bin. So basically what you need to do is to stop them climbing back into the bin with the white top, you need to put a barrier around it. From his video, Antymatter recommends about an inch of barrier on the outside and in. Now, I don't really see the point of putting it on the inside, but that's his advice and guidance. He's obviously tested this, so he knows better than I. What I would recommend is that you to use a PTFE or something similar barrier to that dries. If you try and put a mineral oil on this, especially on the inside, bits are just going to get stuck to it, so it's going to render the barrier absolutely useless. Barrier, should I say. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this to the white bin and then use that. So this is going to collect all the rubbish and it's going to connect the white thing on top of it. That's why I'm putting a barrier on the bin, sucky binny thing, if you want to call it that. It needs better names than just bins for this because it's really confusing. As I'm trying to beautifully demonstrate here, is just using that bin to put the rubbish in, then just putting the white thing on top like that. That's my plan. Now, bearing in mind, I've got a barrier around this, so when I am moving it around, doing all the hoovering and stuff like that, I need to be very mindful that I don't touch the barrier I've just applied to the outside of the bin that I am going to be, this bin I'm going to be sucking with, because it will make the barrier disappear, meaning the ants can get back in. So I'm going to break this down into like two little bits, where the first one I'm going to talk about the sucky thing. Actually, you can see me editing my video in the background as I go along. But anyway, distracted. What I'm pointing out, yes, what I'm pointing out here is that I've got it all connected and ready to go. So I'm going to test the sucky thing to see if the suck bin works and how well it works. And to tell you the truth, as you can see me going along here, it does work really well. But yet again, same problem I found with my leaf cutters, which I forgot to record. I get the bigger bits stuck at the end, which does mean I get a load of, I was going to say solenopsis there, nightmares, flashbacks of trying to clean them out has just come back to me. They do crawl over my hand when I do this, which is a bit of a pain, and they do crawl up the tubing as well, which memory serves when I'm using my overhoop, that doesn't happen as much. I'm not sure why it is this time round, might be just the way that I'm using it. The only thing is, I think next time I'll get a bigger tube to hoover it out with, because at the moment I've got it at an angle, so it's just sucking in and then backing up to the entrance to it. I am really impressed with this though. It does a really good job of collecting all the rubbish and potentially all the ants as well, where before I'd have to be scraping them out of my old filter, or if I didn't use this bucket system as it were to hoover up, I'd get them all inside the hoover itself and I'll be trying to tap them out of there, which can be a bit nightmarish. So this does contain them quite a fair bit. It is quite the vortex in that bin, if you know what I mean, so there's a lot of swirling around. Will that damage the ants? Probably not, but it might be something worth considering. But as you can tell, I'm going around and this little bucket can pick up quite a considerable amount. So this stage of it, really impressed, works really well, really good product. But let's move to phase 2 of the cleaning operation. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually going to disconnect the sucky hoover, the sucky bucket, and put the bin on it on top of the outworld, so if they do all come out and fly everywhere, I can just brush them into the open top of the outworld. Well, that's the plan anyway. So Obviously, it's going to go without saying, there's going to be a lot of ants attached to the green end of the sucky bucket. Expected, nothing you can do about that. It is the way it is. And as you can see there, I just put it on the side. Now, quite quickly, I can just connect. You can't really see it on this bad angling, I know. I can quickly connect it all up. And as you can see, they've already started getting past the barrier on the inside, which is what I kind of expected, to be honest. But it doesn't quite end there. I put it in, I've put it on something so it's at an angle so I don't trap any ants underneath it, and then I try and get them off that lid. That lid was a pain in the bum, the ants got everywhere, but there's nothing in the world that you can do about that. And considering the potential time saving this could do for me, this little inconvenience isn't a major drama. Now, as we enter phase 3, I've speeded this up a little bit just because it's a 6-minute long video, but as you can see, at first it seemed to work quite fine, but then once you get your eye in, yeah, it doesn't so much. Now, I don't think this is the product related issue. The idea behind it works really well, but as you can see, they're crawling up on the outside of the bin, so the barrier I put on has failed already. That is more probably the product that I'm using for a barrier. I am going to try in a second, when I brave myself, to take it out again and apply another barrier around it and see where I get on with that, and hopefully I can make it work how it's supposed to, so they can't get the outside barrier, so they can't climb up to the top of the white stuff and then get inside it, so eventually they'll work the way out. That's the whole idea of this, and at the moment it's not doing that because I didn't apply a decent enough barrier. So I'm going to have to take it out, get ants everywhere, and then reapply the barrier again. So going forward, very mindful for you viewers and for me as well. If I'm going to do this, make sure I apply a really good, thick, plenty of barrier around the outside of it so they can't get past from the outside and get in, so they can get out from the inside, and then hopefully dwindle down what is in the rubbish ant-wise to a lot lower amounts. My guesstimate is I've probably got a couple of thousand ants in there easily, because there's a lot of little, they're very small and they get everywhere. So I'm really keen to actually see if this product works properly and see if it's worthwhile. So I'm gonna have to brave it in a second. Not looking forward to that task. Whew. But here's a fun fact, after I've been picking Care Bear off myself because they're crawling all over me, is what I noticed here as well is that the ants were actually starting to take stuff out of the normal rubbish and move it round and put it into this, which is quite funny. As you can just see them here in the middle with rubbish taking it up, and there's another one going up as well. Little buggers. So I've sped this up as well, as you can see, and the disconnecting it wasn't the issue. It was, I mean, I did have ants crawling. As soon as you touch it, they just swarm you, and as you can see, I'm spending ages flicking them off my hand. I think in the next time when I put the barrier on, I'll show you how many I've got on my hands. It's a lot. But anyway, so as you can see, I then go for this one. I tap as many off as I can, but then I have to put the barrier while there's still ants on there. Look how many ants I've got in my hand. That is unavoidable. You know, yes, some ants may have died doing it, but there's just so bloody many of them. You can't really avoid it, because it doesn't matter what you do, you end up killing some because they just get everywhere. I spent most of this video really flicking ants off myself, and I'm still finding them on myself now after I've done that 10 minutes ago. The barrier, as you'll see in a second, does start to hold after it dries, because at the moment it's wet, so they can get past it. Once it dries, which it does fairly quickly because it's alcohol based, they shouldn't be able to get past it, or fingers crossed they don't get past it, because if they do, I'll have to do this process again, and it's not a pleasant one. As you can see, look, they're all over my hands. They literally just go for you. They're getting to the point, not as bad as a Solenopsis, but these guys are getting to the point of where they're getting difficult to look after. Because before this came along, that mess there would take me literally hours and hours and hours to clean out, because I have to sift through for all the workers that are there, and there is a lot of workers in there. You can just see the outworld now, it's always rammed. They're so difficult when they get this big and they're this small to clean. They really are. So looking at it now, it looks like the barriers start to take effect and they're struggling to get past it, but we'll come back tomorrow and see where we're at. So we fast forwarded 24 hours pretty much to the dot, to be honest. And I'm decided that I'm going to take this out. Now, on Antymatters' video, he does say recommend 48 hours, but for the benefit of getting this film out at the weekend, I only left it 24 hours. But how can I say it? It works. It's great. You'll see a bit in a minute. So the process of taking it out when you've got a colony like this, I just put the white bits to the side and just left it there, because it doesn't matter when I put it back on if there's loads of workers all over it, because they'll just fall off as they're supposed to. This bit was a bit of a pain in the bum, and I learnt from this bit as well, because there were so many up the sides and stuff like that. What I did when I've hoovered it out again to get that remainder that you can, rubbish just there you can see, is I coated it all over the side of it now, apart from a little bit at the bottom, and I did several layers of it so it wouldn't fail like it did initially on this, when I did earlier in this video. So when I'm picking this out, yes, there's loads crawling all over me, but that's because I had to brush them off the side. I reckon that if I do put a big barrier on it, I'm pretty much all over the side of this tub, as it were, most of it anyway, and I leave it long enough so all the ants can get out of the rubbish, as it were, I don't think what I'm doing now is going to be a massive issue. And you remember from earlier in the video I said that Antymatters said you should put a barrier in the inside of the tub, and I didn't quite figure out why. Well, you can see here why. It's just out of shot, but you can see that there is still ants in that side of that tub, and that's stopping them getting out, so I can take them out a little bit later with the cotton bud. I think I filmed that stuff, so you'll see me picking what's left out there before I sift through the rubbish. So yeah, that's why you put a barrier on the inside. I would recommend doing that as well, so when you are taking it apart like I am, you can just stick it there. Also, when I'm hoovering up later, which I thought I filmed, but classic hood style, didn't press the record button, or I think I took a picture instead of it being on video. Stupid me, I know. But regardless of that, what I also noticed that when I took the suction part of tub off that captures it all, they weren't able to get out of it, so I could just put it on the side where with all like thousands of workers in there, and they couldn't get out. So that made it very helpful for me, because obviously with that suction cup tub bin thing, whatever it is, the orange, it's not orange, I get colours right eventually, the green thing, there is going to be a lot of workers running around on the top of that because you've been sucked up. So being able to keep them in that tub while I'm cleaning, collecting all the ones off the top of the lid of the suction bin thing, whatever it is very helpful. So definitely strongly recommend a good barrier on the inside of this tub as well, because it'll help a lot. As you can see I'm doing here, I've put it to the side and I'm about to get the cotton bud out so I can pick the rest of them up. Now the reason why I put that tub on top of the outworld is so I could just easily, if they were on the sides, I could just quickly flick them out onto back into the outworld, so it wasn't a major drama. But anyway, let's go back to sifting it out. So this is me sifting it out as I go along. Ow. Just look at that. There is hardly any workers in there at all. All the ones that are on the surface, as you can see me doing now with the cotton bud, I got them out without tipping it all out. And then this video is like 10 minutes long, so in fact I'm going to speed it up. It literally is a dream. As I'm sifting through it, I had to do this when I used a normal hoover to pick up the rubbish. But if you can imagine there just being hundreds of workers running out, I couldn't do it in one big hoover. I'd have to do it in little bits of hoovers, like pretty much like this size, so I could pick all the workers out and then flick them back into the outworld. But this now, with this method and this tool, there's a couple of workers, and bearing in mind I didn't leave it to the time scale that Antymatters recommend, which is 48 hours, and I left it for 24 hours. So, and as you can see as I'm sifting through it, there is very few workers there. This thing, I don't know how to describe it. It is possibly one of the best time savers when you've got a large colony like mine that I've ever come across when it comes to ant keeping. It was revolutionary when we got keyboard hoovers and people realised that these are great hoover things and great for cleaning out ants and make it a very seamless process. This is equally as amazing as a keyboard hoover. Obviously it needs a keyboard hoover to work, but it's equally as amazing. It is such a massive time saver. I cannot tell you, just that little bucket of rubbish that I'm tipping out and sifting through, if I did that with a normal keyboard hoover, I'm talking hours. I'm not even joking, hours. Because if I don't, I've got hundreds of workers in my bin and they'll be running all over my room. So you have to sift through it. This thing is epic. I do think it's over-engineered, I won't lie. I do think that he's put too much bamf on there that he doesn't need, because all he really needs is the biggest outer ring of it, and then some supports going through the middle to support the lollipop stick, and then they can just get out through that method, through that, rather than having the three other interior parts of it. I don't think it's really needed, but it was not my design, and I'm sure Antymatters has got a very good reason why it's designed like that. I just think that he could make it simpler, quicker to print, cheaper to sell. But it's brilliant. Just look, I cannot tell you how much I really, really like this product. It's brilliant. I'm not even going to argue. So for a final reflection, how do I feel about it? I'm not just saying this because Antymatters has been a long time supporter of my channel. I am not saying it because it was a freebie from him. I did say I'll pay for it and I still haven't, so I'm probably going to need to send him that money actually. I'm looking, it's just down there, that's why I keep looking down that way, because I keep looking at the product. Definitely, I think it's brilliant. Yeah, I think it could do, you could change it slightly, but yeah, it is fantastic. It is literally a time saver for me. Yes, there was a lot of rubbish in there and it took like 2 loads to do it, but if I can keep on top of it so I can get it in 1 load, I can literally just hoover it all out, stick this in there, leave it for 48 hours, come back, most of the ants are gone, and I can do what I did today, the back part of this video. So it is definitely worth it. I think it's brilliant. I don't think it's overly expensive. I can't remember the price of it, but I will put a link to Antymatters' website page down below, and I will put a link to his video as well, so you can see his, obviously the retailer, his video on it and how he thinks it should work. I've pretty much followed what he says, pretty much to the letter. But yeah, it's brilliant. Guys, if you've got a colony like this, a big colony with loads of little tiny workers, it is a lifesaver. So yeah, if you've got Solenopsis and Oliver, get this, because when they get big, mate, they're going to be a nightmare to clean. If you get one of these, it will be a lot easier. So holes, definitely recommend you should get one for when that Solenopsis colony gets big. If I had this with a Solenopsis, my life would have been so much easier as well. So much easier. But yeah, strongly, this is a honest review of it, and definitely worth getting. Definitely. I don't know how else to say that. Get it. So that's it for today then, guys. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please hit the like and subscribe, because it helps the YouTube algorithms massively. I also want to say a big massive thank you to my YouTube members, Lee, Ant Majors, Pumpkin, Wakooshi, as well as my Patreon supporters, Adam W, David D and Anantix. You guys have continued to support me even when I was off the radar for a little bit, and it's muchly appreciated, because without you guys my channel wouldn't be what it is today. Well, anyway, that's it for today, ladies and gents. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye for now.